Hello and welcome to the hashtag Hear2Hear Keeping It 100 podcast. My name is Damon Naylor and I'll be serving as the host. I am the Membership Enhancement Facilitator for NAFCM, and I'm joined by my co-host, the one and only DG Mon, who's the president of NAFCM. Hello, DG, and welcome.
Good morning, my friend. How are you doing, Damon?
I am awesome. I am awesome. It's a beautiful day and I'm just happy and excited early this morning. How about you?
I'm excited too. It's really early, but you have Dr. Stephanie Myers coming on, and I cannot wait to learn from her pearls of wisdom. Let's get this rolling, my friend.
Yes, well, today, guys, we have an amazing guest. I'm pretty partial to her because I've done so much work with her over the last year and a half. As DG mentioned, is Dr. Stephanie Myers, who is out of Washington, D.C. Dr. Myers is the vice president of R.J. Myers Publishing. She's the national co-chair of Black Women for Positive Change and a published author. Additionally, she is a recent honoree of President Biden's Lifetime Achievement Award. She's the former director for the Office of Commercial Space Transportation with the U.S. Department of Transportation and the former Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs for the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So we're going to bring this dynamic individual in and let her talk to us today. Let's get her, DG.
Let's get her in.
All right. Welcome, Dr. Myers. How are you today?
Just fine, thank you. Good to be with you and DG.
Yes, we are just so excited to have such a powerhouse with us today. I've just shared some information about your background with the viewers. So if you want to, you can share more about your personal background there to kind of get them up to speed and let them know who Dr. Myers is.
Well, thank you very much. I guess I would add, I'm proud to add that my husband and I just celebrated our 32nd wedding anniversary. And we have we have 3 adult children, 5 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. So life is busy and it's exciting and a real blessing to be able to be in their lives.
Wonderful, wonderful. So such an amazing family to go along with everything else. That's truly a blessing. That's truly a blessing. Well, we're so glad that you have decided to be a part of this interview with us, and we're going to jump right into it. We know you guys at Black Women for Positive Change, you have the 12th annual month of nonviolence, families, voters' rights, and opportunities coming up in October. And we just want you to talk about that a little bit and talk about, why is it crucial to teach the children and parents techniques to foster peace and understanding? We'll start off with that question.
Okay, well, it's really critical because the children and the parents, that's the culture of America. And one of the goals that we have with our organization is to change the culture of violence in America and the world. Now, when we first started this whole effort of the month of nonviolence, it started off as a day because it was right after Trayvon Martin got killed. And we realized we couldn't just talk about jobs and opportunities and going to school and all of these kinds of things if our young people were being killed in the streets by people that were using implicit bias and who were just coming up against them. So we started off with a day of nonviolence, then it spread to a week, and people like DG Mon said, look, we've got people in different parts of the country, can't we broaden this? And now it's a month. And so on one hand, I'm proud of it and happy that it has grown. On the other hand, I'm saddened that we have to even deal with issues like this. Because when you talk about the parents and the children and the culture needing to be changed, we have to really get people to realize when you look at history, that is not a blur on you. It's not a blemish on you. History is history. It happened. The colonialists came here and they ran into the Native Americans and they committed genocide. It happened. People were brought from Africa into the West Indies and into the North America and South America, and my ancestors were enslaved. It happened. Poor white indentures from Scotland, from Ireland, from England, many of them were in prisons. They were let free and come over here to become the managers, the law enforcement officers, the slave catchers, the wardens. It happened. So culture is the collective memory of all those things that happened. Now we want to move forward. We're at 2023 now. We want to move forward into the 21st century and change the negative things and change them to the positive things. So starting with the parents and children is the place to start.
Hey, magnificent, magnificent. And I know you mentioned about, you kept repeating that it happened. Do you find it ironic that in today's culture, they just don't want to admit it and they're just trying to hide it in some cases and then change it in others?
Well, that's why I kept underscoring that particular concept, because people feel that history is something that can be changed. See, we have revisionist history, and it has happened before, where people will literally rewrite a story about what happened and lie about it. And that's just part of the problem. Our culture needs to be a culture of truth. The founding fathers, many of whom were slave owners, but they did have some good parts about them while they had some weaknesses about them. But the good parts were that they really wanted the country to be based on law and on truths, on principles, and on integrity as far as they understood it at that time in the 1700s. That's what we need to keep trying to achieve. And that's where we're really off track right now. Right now, lying, pranking, all kinds of behaviors have become acceptable and acceptable as a norm. When we talk about culture, for example, you talk about art, that's part of culture. Well, in America, our biggest art form is the entertainment industry. So when we take a look at our current entertainment industry, just turn on network TV or go on the streamings. There's lots of pranking going on. There's a top show called Prank Team, I think it's called. It's shocking. The very core of the show is for people to lie to their relatives and friends to entice them to get into a situation that is false and to try to frighten them. And the more that you can frighten your friends and your family, the more you're likely to win. What kind of value system is that? And so
However,
this is something, yes, Stevie.
Dr. Myers, I think entertainment reflects what is going on in the culture. I don't think it's separate from. So based on what you just described, isn't that what's going on in our broader culture? And entertainment's just holding up the mirror to it?
Exactly. Entertainment is definitely a reflection. It's also a reinforcement, however. So we have to get involved with the entertainment messages, because then it's a two-way street. They're picking up what happens in the street, like the kids with the hip hop and all the vulgar terms, anti-female concepts in hip hop. Well, hip hop becomes a billion-dollar industry. Everyone's really excited and they love it, but the messages are not positive toward relationships, towards self-concepts, self-confidence, towards women. And there's all this negativity. This guy has this song out now, I forget his name. You can't try that in a small town. Is that the name of it? Try that in a small town?
Yes.
Okay, well, this is number 1 or number 2 on the top record list in the country. But what he's insinuating is taking the country back to a time when Black people could be lynched, or there could be some other kinds of violent behavior towards women, or there would be all kinds of reaction from the town itself toward the residents. That's a popular song. So what I'm trying to say is, when we talk about changing the culture, we have to look at art, we have to look at families, we have to look at individual behaviors. What are the moral principles that we want to use? Another example I'll give you, and why culture is so critical. We now have AI, and AI is just spreading all over the world. Okay. AI has the capacity to do good, and AI has the capacity to do bad. So now who's going to make that decision? Who's going to decide whether the AI bomb that can blow up a whole country should be invented? I don't know if you guys have seen Oppenheimer, but that's what he struggled with. It's not a question of can you do it, but sometimes it's a question of should you do it? So our culture is grappling.
But again, with the movie you just referenced, which I don't want to give it more airtime, it is an example of ignoring our culture. There were many women involved in that process. There were many Afro-Americans involved in that process. Yet in the movie, you'd have no idea. So again, back to your original statement, it happened. It happened. Women, people of color have been involved in our country. They should not be erased. And in some part, that's what that movie did and does. It gives the
Absolutely.
impression for people that only certain people, only a certain gender could be so brilliant that they could actually think about creating what was created. So I think by your reference in the movie, you're also underscoring what I think is the truth you're putting before us, which it happened. And we must be honest about it. We must be transparent about it. Because if we don't, that trauma is still going to be the facilitator for the violence that you, Dr. Mars, has been a leader in trying to have us face and reduce.
Absolutely. And Oppenheimer really is a white supremacist movie in some ways, just because of what you described. And the whole issue of the bomb and the violence was kind of dictated by these guys up on the top of the line, including the President of the United States. So these are the kinds of things that violence grows out of, whether it's a bomb that killed almost 200,000 people, or whether it's guns being left in the alleys of Chicago. We've heard over the years that guns are sometimes just left out on the street, and these kids get them, or their guns are sold to them at very cheap prices. And then they think that they're Mr. Hotshot because they've got a gun, and then they run out and get into some fight with someone, and then bam, here you've got it on the evening news, yet another kid's been lost. Another thing I find really tragic about the whole violence issue is people need to realize every time a young man is killed, you lose generations of people. So here we have ideas where our white population is saying that they're worried about the numbers reducing. Well, get rid of the guns. If you're killing white men in any kind of a situation, you're losing future generations. Same thing in the Black community. If we're losing 5 or 6 or 10 generations of people, that can be several hundred. Our country cannot afford that. If we don't want to have the country overtaken by people who aren't from here, then we've got to build our own population, but we have to build them in the right way. And that's where we are trying with the month of nonviolence to raise some of these discussions, to get people to think about it. Violence really starts at the kitchen table. And this is something we have to realize. Part of the slave legacy that my ancestors experienced was survival. They had to survive. They had to be willing to fight in some instances. They had to go through all kinds of struggles. All right, so we've got to heal that. We've got to get past that. On the other hand, the part of the culture that was taught guns and taught violence and taught all kinds of military philosophies, they need to get past that. You know, when you realize 1 out of 3 women in America have been a victim of domestic violence, and 1 out of 4 men, well, that lets you know it's in the home. And if we had a woman, I think it was last year on one of our webinars, and her dad was a minister, but he was also violent against her mother. She talked about being a little girl, and when her daddy would come home, she could tell by the tone of his voice if he was going to beat her mother up that night. Now, can you imagine? She's 10, 11 years old, hiding in the bedroom, and here daddy is coming. So her mother went to the minister, another minister in the church where her husband preached, and said, "This is happening to me. Can't you help me? Can't you get him to stop?" The minister said, "We don't interfere with things that are going on in the houses of our members." And he wouldn't touch it. Now that's a cultural problem. Yes. I can recall standing with the minister during one of our events, during one of our months of nonviolence, and I asked the minister if he would do a sermon on violence during October, which is something that we really try to encourage ministers to do. He said, "No, I can't talk about violence from the pulpit. Many of the people in my congregation are either perpetrators or victims. Wow. And if I start talking about that topic, I might lose my congregation." Woo!
OMG. Horrible, horrible, horrible. and they're the leadership. So that just lets you know the leadership enables this culture to exist, and not only exist, to grow and to thrive. So if they don't sound the alarm and do anything about it, who else can? That's awful. That's awful. But I believe on a flip side, a vital answer is what Black Women for Positive Change is doing, and that's the peace circles. And I know you guys are trying to get involved with the school system and have them there. What's the reasoning behind that, or what makes that so important?
Well, I'm proud to say that we learned about peace circles from NAFCM and from your membership. And I didn't know what a peace circle was 6 months ago. So one of the benefits of being a part of our network, where we have really brilliant people like you, Damon, and like you, DG, all over the country. We have people with multicultural backgrounds who are members, our good brothers like you guys, and people from different backgrounds. It was so enlightening to learn about the restorative justice peace circles. Now, they've been going on in the schools for some time. But if you're not a teacher or an educator and in the schools, or if you don't have kids right there with you in the schools, you don't know about them. Our kids homeschool, so they're not in the public school system, so we wouldn't learn about that. But with the restorative justice circles, I was so impressed to hear the way that the mediators in NAFCM and in other organizations are sitting with children and helping them to communicate and express themselves. Really, guys, this is the first solid idea that we have heard in 12 years that we felt was applicable to changing the culture of violence. Now, you hear a whole lot of other kind of things, one-on-one counseling, and there's all kinds of programs, I understand that. But this model, and what I also love about it, is it grows out of the indigenous cultures. And one of our members, who's on your board of directors, Professor Renata Valerie, we have a beautiful toolkit that Renata and Kim Best of Best Conflict Solutions have put together, this outstanding toolkit. So anyone who signs up to be a host for Peace Circles will get a copy free of this professionally developed instrument that they did in consultation with an expert gentleman. His name is not in front of me now, but his first name is Joe, I believe. And I'm sorry about that, I should have it right here, but he's outstanding, and I'm sure a lot of your members know. But the peace circles represent so much opportunity. I was also excited to hear you can have them thematic. You can have a peace circle that focuses on communication, one that focuses on violence. You might have one that focuses on empathy. We're considering maybe a peace circle that can talk about voters' rights. So there's so much opportunity with this. So we want to thank you guys and your knowledge and wisdom for helping to promote this concept. Joe Brummer of Connecticut is the gentleman who consulted with Kim Best and Renata Valerie and helped to prepare this toolkit. So we really thank Dr. Brummer. He's outstanding, and he came to one of our meetings. And we have up on YouTube, Damon, you might want to share this, the YouTube link of that meeting that you produced and edited. It's up on our YouTube Urgent Black Women for Positive Change Urgent Issues channel is what it's called. And there's a presentation up there that includes Dr. Brummer, and it's excellent.
But yeah, I love the idea of the peace circles, and of course, two spaces where it will definitely be necessary and I think impactful will be the schools, but then also at the homes, because at home, I know you guys want people to do peace circles and just some type of nonviolent activity during the month of October. Are there any other suggestions you have for families to do?
Absolutely. Any type of violence prevention event. There may be a community like in Birmingham, Alabama, Attorney Carthenia Jefferson, she puts together peace marches, and she gets the young people together, and then she'll have a summit with some of the local law enforcement and some of the judges and talk about what's going on in Birmingham. So people can have workshops around topics that they think are relevant. It can be domestic violence. It can be the justice system that's going on in a community. It can be a whole range of subjects that are appropriate. And we're also very interested in introducing the concept of opportunities as alternatives to violence. Over this 12-year period, we've heard from so many people in so many cities. And I was in Pittsburgh about 4 or 5 years ago doing a workshop with the chief of police. And we were at a local high school, and there were hundreds of kids there talking about violence and gangs and anger and all the things they were going through. So I posed the question, why? Why are you so angry? What's behind all of this? So one of the young men, I think he was about 17 years old, he said, look, when I wake up in the morning and get ready for school, my brothers and sisters and I are fighting. We're just fussing and fighting for all morning. And my mother is upset. My dad's not there. My mom is upset because she's got to get to work. So she wants us to eat and get dressed and get going. So he says, my first hour is nothing but back and forth, fussing, fussing, fussing. Then he says, I walk on my way to get to the bus, and I walk past some men on the corner or some guys, and they're teasing me, making comments about me, the way I'm dressed, the way I'm doing this. So I have to get past them. Then I get on the bus, and the kids on the bus are arguing and fussing on the bus on the way to school. He said, by the time I get to school, I've had at least an hour and a half to 2 hours worth of stress and tension. So when I get to class, the first person who messes with me, I'm ready to deck them. But that was his answer. So I said, okay, wow. I said, well, how can we solve this? And he said, well, one of the problems is your generation and the generation of my mom and dad, they were X generation. I'm a boomer. He said, you guys have been so tied up in your own lives, you don't have time for us. You haven't taken the time to show us dreams. You haven't shown us opportunities. We don't know what we want to be. He said, so if someone would take the time to give us a vision for the future, we wouldn't be so upset. Oh, okay. He really kind of knocked me over with that. And so we decided that opportunities has got to be a trend. We want all of our groups to address violence, yes, but that's the negative. We've got to go toward the positive, and we have to develop opportunities as alternatives to violence. So one of the things that Black Women for Positive Change is working on now is we want to build a Positive Change Academy. And Reverend Barbara Reynolds and I have been working on this almost 2 years now. We're trying to develop a model and find a good funding source that will invest in us helping Gen Zs and millennials gain exposure to some of the cutting edge careers that are going on that they just don't know about. At your average public school, you're not necessarily going to hear about going to low Earth orbit in a privately owned rocket ship. No, it's going on. Elon Musk is doing it. But how many of the schools have space programs? Some of them do, but some of them don't. So we would like to be able to develop this model where we can show young people how they can talk to an expert, learn about quantum physics, learn about artificial intelligence, learn about robotics, and then proceed. When I was director of the Office of Commercial Space Transportation, that was one of these cutting edge industries. And we had a Rockets for Kids initiative one summer where we were able to show the kids how to launch, toy rockets, and they loved it. I wasn't able to get the department to continue on with it, but we need to do things like that.
Exactly. Well, that is awesome. You've shared some insightful information. And as always, this time comes to a close so fast. We appreciate you for being a dynamic guest. And is there any final words you want to share with the viewers before we depart?
Absolutely. We hope that you will all consider working with your local schools and teachers to sponsor peace circles during October, the month of nonviolence, from October 1st to the 31st. You can go to our website, www.monthofnonviolence.org, and sign up. And you can sign up to do a peace circle in your backyard with your kids, grandkids, and neighbors, at the local elementary, middle, or high schools, even the local church. We just want people to get together, and our organization is prepared to help you get trained, to help you find facilitators, because there's so many chapters of NAFCM all over the country. There are people who are very skilled in how to do this kind of facilitation. So please, everyone go to www.monthofnonviolence.org, sign up to do a peace circle or some other type of event during the month of nonviolence, and you'll get one of those beautiful toolkits as a gift from us after doing that. And then we can talk about how we can move forward.
Wonderful, wonderful. DG, did
And
you
one
have
other thing, Damon, I've
Go
got
ahead.
one other quick thing. Also, you can join Black Women for Positive Change by going to www.blackwomenforpositivechange.org. And we reach out to everyone, men, women, Black, white, old, young, to be part of our network. Thank you, Damon. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Super organization. I'm a part of it. So please go sign up. And DG.
I just wanted to, again, thank you, Dr. Myers. And culture is a collection of what happened. And in the end, and the hope is that our culture, at least that was captured in the Constitution, is one of hope, one of dignity, one of respect, one of an evolution. We wouldn't have the amendment process if those that created the country didn't know. They didn't get it 100% right. They recognized that. They put an amendment process in there. So as more wisdom would grow, it could be amended in a way that would be more inclusive, in a way that is more engaging. And so what you said about holding these circles everywhere, that is so rooted in American culture, that we've always been engaged with each other, from family to neighborhoods to whole communities. So with that hope, I thank you for bringing that to this podcast. And thank you, Damon, for inviting Dr. Myers and for hosting them.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys, Dr. Myers, for being a wonderful guest, and my co-host, DG Mon. We thank everyone for tuning in to #Hear2Hear, Keeping It 100 podcast, and we hope to see you guys soon. Please continue to spread the word and share this podcast with others who can really benefit from it. Thank you and take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.